would like to say that when you're doing a technique, you have to almost only concentrate on the feeling of that technique. And if you don't, if you think more than that, or if you're doing more than that, the feeling of that technique will die. So the audience will see less when you do that technique, okay? For example, when you're doing wave, right? You have to, when you start your wave, then you have to forget about anything else and concentrate on just the wave. So when you do it, it gives the full feeling of the wave and nothing else. If you're dancing and then doing wave and thinking about something else, okay, or you get tense, that's the problem. When you get tense, right, you can't show the feeling of that technique. If you're tense, the feeling of wave will all go away. When you start your wave, right, however, you have to only concentrate on the feeling of that technique, so that while you're doing the technique, the feeling of that technique can be fully presented, and people would see the proper feeling of that technique through your dance. Do you understand? It's same with centipede, right? The synchronizing moves. When you're doing the synchronizing moves, centipede, you just concentrate on the feeling of that centipede, right? Centipede, it goes on at the same speed in the move. Goes at the same speed and then it ends. So, but if you're merely doing this technique, right, it's easier. But when you do the centipede while you're dancing, right, you forget about this and then so the feeling dies, okay? This is also the result of being stiff. If you get stiff, right, the centipede feeling would die. So what you have to do is, when you're dancing, right, and you happen to start the technique of the centipede, you have to forget about anything else and concentrate on the feeling of centipede. You understand? Centipede is not only horizontally done or vertically done. It can be also done diagonally. You understand? A lot of people, they just try to do the centipede vertically, horizontally or vertically. Do you understand? But they don't try to do it diagonally. If you do centipede diagonally, it gives much bigger impact because it's more diverse than just horizontally or vertically. Do you understand? Okay, so it's very important when you do the centipede, you concentrate on the feeling, you move at the same after you do the move, you stop. Alright? Stop. 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 So that's important. The same with the flexes. The reason why doing flex is very difficult in popping is because while you're popping, right, it's hard to stop the feeling of the pop. So you keep on popping. So the feeling of your flex would die. So what you do is when you start your flex, you have to concentrate only on the flex feeling so that it doesn't die. Okay? If you're popping, a lot of people feeling of flex dies, alright? So the feeling of flex is turning and stop. It's similar to the centipede feeling, you know. You turn and stop, turn and stop. And then how much you turn is until your stretch stops. Okay? You don't go halfway. Okay? The full range until you stop. And you should feel the click, 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 click. Click means the feeling of your stretch ending, okay? The full stretch. After you stretch the full range, you can't go more, right? So it clicks. It's like the feeling of a click. And another thing with these techniques is that when you want to add pop, when you pop with these techniques, it's hard because you have to concentrate on the pop and the feeling of the move itself. So if you add pop, you still have to concentrate on the feeling of the move, or else the feeling of the move will die like this. It won't have the flex feeling. Right. Same with the centipede. You have to concentrate on both, that's why it's difficult. The feeling of the centipede itself and the pop. Alright? Or what will happen is you'll do only the pop and not the feeling of that technique. Like boom, 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 boom. It dies, right? So what you have to do is although you're doing a technique, your body shouldn't be tense or relaxed and everything, so that you can still have that feeling of the centipede, or else everything will die. Okay? So the feeling of the centipede, and if you want to add pop, it's very hard because you have to concentrate on both the feeling and the pop itself. It's the same with wave. But with wave it's a little bit different because wave, you don't normally pop until the end of the move. You don't pom 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 You can do this, but this is very rare. If you want to do it like this, you will be able to do it at certain points when you want to emphasize the pop. But normally with wave, you pop after the full move. Okay? Right? You don't usually pop at the middle of the wave until it's intended. Okay? So I should say with wave it's a little easier because you don't have to like pop every beat. Okay? You can just but what I want to say here is when you start a technique, you have to concentrate on the feeling of that technique itself and nothing else. Because if you try to do other things with that technique, the usual case would be you're losing the feeling of that technique, right? And have in mind that it's harder when you do the pop with that technique because you have to concentrate on two things, which are the feeling of the technique itself and the pop. So you have to concentrate on two, so it's very hard. But even when you do it like that, your body has to be totally relaxed so that you can. Don't be stiff because you have to do the pop, right? Your body has to be relaxed, and when you do the pop, you do the pop. So you have to concentrate on both things. There are many cases where dancers dance and do their technique, but the feeling of the technique does not show properly, okay? Because the dancing, they have to concentrate on the dance itself, okay? Being rhythmical, being on the beat and everything. So the feeling of the technique that they're doing dies. So what you have to do is, even though you have to dance, you have to have continuity with your dance. When you start the technique, right, you have to be completely focused on the feeling of that technique itself and nothing else. And if you would like to mix pop with it, you have to have two things in mind. So that's why it's difficult. The feeling of the technique itself and the pop. Alright? So when you practice it, and when you start the technique, try to concentrate. Even though you're practicing freestyle, okay? You're moving with the music, not choreographed, but try to concentrate on the feeling of that technique. That's very important. Every time when you dance, every time you do a freestyle, okay? When you do a technique, at the time you're doing that technique, you have to be only focused on the feeling of that technique and nothing else. Or else the feeling of that technique will die and there will be no meaning for you to do the technique. You understand? Okay.